You're such an asshole.
Hello, children. All right, we have kind of a funny, lighthearted question. Dear Mr. Dude Bro Slayer, philosophically and potentially economically, is coffee more supportive than the government, specifically the U.S. government? Hear me out. It seems as if coffee functions inversely with how the government works overall, at least in the context of benefiting other people. For example, coffee helps people be more productive, which allows them to work and produce goods and services. The government, on the other hand, tends to want to give handouts and create incentives for people not to work via Social Security and welfare. This results in the rest of society having to work extra hard to pick up the slack, and if less people are working and producing goods and services, this creates both a shortage of supplies and higher prices across the board. Another example is finances. Because coffee tends to make people more productive, which allows them to make more money for themselves, the government works in an opposite fashion by making the money printer go burr and results in money being stolen out of our pockets via inflation. One last example has to do with health. There's tons of studies showing how beneficial coffee is to our brain, heart, and body via antioxidants and natural sourced caffeine. The government acts inversely in this health context by creating a ton of stress for people, which is bad for their health via inflation and freedom infringement. Also, I don't recall my delicious cup of coffee wanting to force me to get a vaccine or letting people burn their buildings down. Don't forget that. That's very important. Overall, it seems as if coffee is more supportive to the American people than the U.S. government. What do you think? Well, what do you think? Of course. See, now, I hate to be the economist here, but it does pay every once in a while to take a look at the budget and see where your money goes, state, federal, local, and an overall, like you pool all three levels of government together, like where does it go? And keep in mind, government does play some very vital roles. I mean, I'm sure you like roads, right? You like a judicial system. You like, what else? Military, highways. I'm all for some regulatory and stuff because I know there is obviously way too much regulation. But if did you see what the bankers did? Did you see what the public or the private four colleges do? People think, oh, private sector good, public sector bad. No, we're all pulling from the same pool of sick, disgusting, mentally ill psychopaths. And if businesses, if unchecked, will resort to illegal or at least unethical activities. And the government, you need to have regulation. You do. I know a couple bankers and analysts who are still in banking, and the amount of underwriting regulation and requirements that the banks or that the government required the banks to have now is triple than what it was. I couldn't go back to be an analyst unless I got new training because of all the new federal regulations. Oh, the regulator. Oh, that's government. We need to get government out of the way. No. They're there because the banks just basically were engaging in completely unethical and illegal activities. Now, the government should just let them crash, but we didn't. So now you got to babysit these banks. But if you're going to babysit the banks to bail them out, you have every right to be so far up their ass with new regulatory burden. Anyway, point being that the government does play a role. And if you go and look at the overall combined budgets of state, federal, and local governments, basically 2/3 of it is welfare spending, giving money to other people, whereas 1/3 of it is actual government on government things, whether that's I don't I'm thinking cops, judicial system, regulatory agencies, bridges, Department of Transportation, that actual government stuff. People, government people need to get paid too. They need salaries. I'm all for that. But 2/3 of it is just going to other people, which is communism, which is enslaving the rest of the productive people to give money to the parasitic. That's what it is. It's not an opinion. It's not pejorative. It's not complimentary. I just described what happened. So any form of slavery or parasitism or theft, however you want to call it, that's bad. Coffee is good. Coffee has no negative downside. I guess if you consume too much of it, you'll get sick. But yeah, coffee is a commodity. It has value. It has intrinsic value right off the bat. Government, as it stands right now, is 2/3 bad, 1/3 good. So I guess what would you say? A net third bad. I'd say 2/3 bad because you did pay the money for the taxes, so it's 2/3 bad. But compare a rock, a worthless rock, to the government. The rock doesn't enslave me 2/3. The Rock doesn't threaten to take freedoms away and blame me of problems and weaponize one group of people against the other, or several groups of people against several other groups of people. The Rock exists. But coffee, yeah. Oh yeah, coffee is absolutely. There was Martin Andrade wrote a great book called Nixon's Guide to the Multiverse. If you guys go pick that up if you want just a fun book to read. And Marty did a brilliant job. It's a multiverse, right? So it's not just Earth. Earth happens kind of in a Men in Black. Earth happens to be a headquarters or a main thoroughfare. But the universe doesn't run on money or currency or anything like that. It runs on coffee. And so they're always getting a coffee and they're getting paid in bags of coffee. It's a comedy book. It's very well written. Marty did a great job with that. Yeah, coffee can serve as a currency as well. It's divisible, universally accepted. Most everybody wants it. If you don't drink coffee, you likely know someone who will. It stores pretty well. So coffee is very much way better than government. Absolutely. But it depends on if you had the government to say like 1900, I'd be for that. Then I'd be like, well, I don't know. They tax us at 3% and they provide protection and everything for us. I kind of like the US government. But now, yeah, it's just it really is more of a mafia. Like, give us protection money. Well, that worked out for you Minnesotans, didn't it? Huh? All that protection money and they still rioted, huh? Oh, look at all the money. Didn't work. So there you go. All right, we got any where are we here? Any super chats? No super chats. There you guys go. See you guys later. Toodles.